then, you know, people were making their own clothes and that. And punk went through a phase of that where people were doing their own tattoos, making their own clothes, and then gradually it became much more mainstream. There were so many different subcultures in London, and I was tattooing loads of them. Most of the designs were either copied from fanzines, record covers, leather jackets, bands, logos. Loved the image of punk at the time, you know, so I would just find a picture of a girl and then change it to a girl with a Mohican haircut. London, it was absolutely buzzing. It was just an amazing place to be. Skinheads, there were psychobillies, rockabillys. I guess at the time there was a lot of people that wanted to show allegiance to bands that they liked. We have to think, with the skinhead community at the time, you know, we were at war with the Falklands and people wanted to get patriotic tattoos done. It was, you know, being patriotic was encouraged, and now it's not that way. But these are different eras that we've lived through. So with skinheads, traditionally, English flags, Union Jacks, the word ACAB, the crucified skin. I mean, there was a couple of tattooists specialising in tattooing the skinheads in London at the time, doing stuff really cheap. So a lot of the kids were going there underage, getting stuff done. It's when you started to see a lot of facial tattooing coming along. If you've got a big group of people and there could be peer pressure in it. I think what happened with a lot of them then, within that crowd, they wanted to stand out. I tattoo lots of bulldogs now, but people have it as a classic old design because it was found way back. If you look at old First World War postcards, you'll often see the image of a bulldog on there. The bulldog breed, that's what they used to call the British. I guess for a few of us, we are a bit fat and wrinkly and get out of breath easily. A symbol of strength, defiance, patriotism. I mean, with a lot of tattoos, people can interpret their own meanings into them. But a lot of Western style tattooing, it's just the aesthetic of it. I think the crucified skin was just an image that a lot of skinheads liked, you know. It could be found on t-shirts and here, there and everywhere. So a lot of people went for that design. The cross on the forehead is an easy design to do. But I've seen people that were in Borstal had that done, you know, because the Borstals, which was a young offenders kind of prison in Britain, there was loads of people doing hand tattooing in there, hand poking. Not the way hand poking's done now. You used to get a needle, wrap it round with cotton, dip it in Indian ink. So you used to see loads of people with these bluey green, really poor quality primitive type tattoos on them. You know, 5 dots on the hand, ACAB on the fingers, like dots on the cheeks or a cross on the forehead.
I'm proud to be English. A lot of my tattoos are all England and skinhead tattoos. Obviously, being a skinhead, everyone sees you being racist.
The years go by as quickly as you wink. Enjoy yourself, enjoy yourself. It's later than you think.
I first got into the music and the subculture when I was 16. 1985, a good friend of mine, Pete, made me a mixtape. He was a skinhead at the time. And when I heard that tape, I was like, yeah, this needs to be just the whole fight back against everybody, just like rebel, teenage rebel. I grew up in a Caribbean home, so I grew up on, you know, soul music, reggae, rocksteady. I was very, very picky about who I wanted to tattoo me, and I was very, very hesitant to get tattoos until I found that one right person to do it. A good friend of mine, Jay, I kind of just went, all the ideas I had. But my first tattoos, I wanted to be something more personal to me. I didn't want to be like everybody else, you know. I'll get the fucking spider web, you know. That's, you know, it looked nice, but I wanted to be a little bit different. Most of these are medieval tattoos. You know, I've got a bunch of Templar stuff on me. So I've got a couple of label tattoos, a couple of band tattoos. Well, I have one Japanese Hanya mask, and that's usually a symbol of jealousy. There's a lot of jealousy, and people on the outside, you know, always having something to say, not knowing us, making up rumors, talking shit, you know. So that's why I keep that there, because we're plagued with that shit, you know. We've been around 30 years, and we still have to deal with people who don't even know us talking.
I can't do anything else other than take photographs. Literally nothing. That's my job on the planet. But yeah, it's what I wanted to do, and it's what I was going to do. And there's nothing was going to stop me. I didn't know how, didn't know where, didn't know the why of it. Nothing was easy because I hate myself. I'm utterly insecure, and it's only been till I got into my 50s I've actually started to look at them and go, yeah, they are quite good, aren't they? And I had so much suppressed anger inside of me that my dyslexia had been treated in the way I'd been treated, which was not being treated at all, in a way. One of my first tattoos was by Jock, a little Union Jack, because again I only had a £5 or a £10. And then I got to about 17, was reading Punk's Not Dead, and in that was a little photograph of this. Then I had that one done, just because I was all in love with Keely and she was a punk. When she left me, I had that done. Never took breakups very well. I made that decision in Laos on my own, on a rainy day, heartbroken, and I'm like, I'm having that. Even though I looked the part, you know, I was a bit scary looking as a skinhead. Inside me didn't exactly gel with what I looked on the outside. I don't think I ever got them to look tough, otherwise I'd have had them on my forearms. It was more a mark of my loyalties. There's something about ska music and something about, you know, oi music that really speaks to the working class, and it's about freedom and expression and dancing and release.
What it is, we're lucky to be in England, what produced the best clobber and music. Well, I mean, I had ADHD, early 70s, ping pong ball, different schools. You're building up a tolerance, you know, anger and, you know, violence and that. And you can express yourself through that way. And at that time it was the oi music, which was kind of the flame to the fire, you know. To be honest, it's kind of a bit of a frightening thing when you first dress like it and you step out. And everyone looks at you, you've got to handle that. You know, if you're born a bit different like I am, it's more. One of my first tattoos cost me about £2. Well, it's weird because you kind of feel bare, didn't you? You know, you feel bare, your skin got nothing on it, and you see other guys with tattoos are a bit older and you think, oh, that looks pretty good. And, you know, skinned on your finger and skinned in the neck. Yeah, I was 17, all my arms, my neck went a bit overboard with it all, but the Chelsea Lion from the football club, like Spurs had the cockerel and the Gunners Arsenal, and you know, it all fits in where you're from and that. You know, skinhead, I mean, it'll be on this planet until it blows up.
I got it when I was 18, on my 18th birthday, as soon as it was legal to get a tattoo, just because I could get one really. I was the first one out of my mates to do it, so I felt like a right badass when I did it. I saw lots of other skinheads basically. I just got into skinhead culture, you know, punk rock and...
First tattoo is on my fucking hand. There was a rule in my head as well, which somebody older had said at the point, where you couldn't get a crucified till after you've been a skinhead for 5 years. Maybe that was just a gatekeeping thing. The older skinhead's one of the things done right, if you wanted to get that, if you wanted to be accepted and not be fucking treated as fucking silly. So you've actually been crucified. You've backed the burning, being a 16-year-old kid, dressed like a fucking neo-Nazi in other people's eyes. You think that doesn't come around with beatings? You don't think that comes around with violence? Yes, it does. I earned that. Skinhead for me was the borderline between street culture and football culture and punk rock, because punk rock is the big love of my life, right? Punk rock is the thing that probably separated me as a teenager from my mates. And to also show my mates I was different at the time, right? I was not going to have a Mohican and I wasn't going to be fucking doing it. But you're like, yeah, Skinhead's a bit of a bad boy from the 80s, that's what we know, and super proud to be British. Growing up in North London and growing up the other places that I grew up, I wanted people to know that I was English. That one and 4 I did in the army. That's the postcode that my granddad lived, my dad lived, and I grew up in. Got badly infected, that's why I look shit, but no, it's a badge. It's a badge of honour. Union Jack was the first real tattoo, first one I had done in the shop. Early life was in the States, and that was a ping pong ball between the USA and England. That's the old Spurs crest. Greatest fucking football team the world has seen. Yeah.
We started like me and a bunch of friends buying like shitty machines and tattooing each other. And that's how I get my first tattoo. They're pretty ugly. Boots and braces, like all this shit, you know, tattoo. So yeah, me and people from my crew, we all got the same tattoo. So yeah, that was like the first tattoo of belonging. We all did like a different animal. I have a gorilla here with the motto of our gang. It's all related to music or skinhead movement. You know, like cliché skinhead tattoos, tattoos that every skinhead has to have. Spiderweb, crosses, and crucifix tattoo, Trojan, all that shit. I always wanted to do like harsh stuff. They also have a shock value that looks mean, you know? I love the fact that people look at you like, wow, yeah, you're, he's mean, you know, he's bad. So, yeah, I'm bad, whatever, you don't know shit about me. The rest of the people, I don't fucking care, but like, there was like a family reunion and somebody asked me like, oh, I love your cross, it's cool. But what does it mean? And before I answered, my mom said, it's because he's Catholic and he's really proud of it, you know? I was like, oh, not really, but whatever, you know? That, if my mom is happy with that, that's fine.
Well, the very first one was this eagle, American eagle, the legendary tattoo jock up in King's Cross, and everything about it was frightening. Because back then, King's Cross was quite known for a red light district. There was a lot of petty criminals about, and I think that I got that one next. The bulk of the early ones were Dennis Cockle. When I was a kid, really it was like the bad boys, and it was just boys who had the tattoos, who were criminals or people who had been in the military. And the Rockabillys guys and the skinheads were the first really youth cops to really get tattooed up. And it was almost like the bands made it more popular. People started having tattoos because they had tattoos. What started as something that was almost like a mark of distinction, like a mark of being different, has become quite uniform. London up here. Does it say London? I like the Trojan reggae. Because the skinhead movement essentially came from black music anyway. It was a merger of Jamaican music and Jamaican fashion with white working class fashion. It was a mixture of the hard end of mods, the hard mods, with the music they'd grown up with, which was the music of the first generation Jamaican kids. In reality, you couldn't get a least racist thing than skinheads. If I'd known then the things I was writing in sounds were going to be repeated back to me 40 years later, cheers, I wouldn't have been drunk when I wrote them. I wouldn't have been.
You know